Like, the desperation is palpable. I think this event has failed. To find out that Nick kept my wedding ring for all this time, that's creepy. That is weird. And now he's going to humiliate April. He's going to humiliate someone else with, I mean, if he's really going to read people a letter I wrote to try and save my decimated marriage before I gave up on it. One last try to bring the coke addict back into the fold. And she responded to it. She said, look, if we buy this house, we can do this. And I went, fuck that, I ain't buying that house. So I was kind of an asshole. We talked about that letter before. I guess I was kind of a dick because I was like, God, I got to get her off these drugs. I got to get her off this shit. And I was like, oh, because I tried like, you need to get off these drugs. You need to stop doing coke, blah, blah, which is reasonable. But when someone's hooked on coke, they don't think they are. So I wrote this letter saying, I fell in love with someone else. I apologize. I'm a monster. I'm this terrible guy. And then she goes, all right, well, if we buy this house, we can. I'm like, nope, not buying the house. We're not. No. Because the whole point was I was like, we got to get the kids away from this shit. We got to, let's put this thing back together, but let's not, if we move out this way, nah, I think I'm good. Your proposal is not acceptable. So I'm like, hey, sorry for saying that you're addicted to coke. I'm a bad guy for doing that. Sorry for falling in love with another person. My bad for doing that. I'm so sorry. I'm a monster. I'm a terrible guy. Oh, okay. Well, let's go buy this house. Nope. See ya. Keep the ring. And then she didn't, which I thought was an awesome move by her. You shouldn't keep that ring. I'd sell it. That's the biggest you to me. You're pissed at me. You sell that ring. You. I'm taking the money. But instead, Nick couldn't part with it. So he kept my wedding ring. Dude, eternally in cuckatude much. Holy shit. And now that's supposed to be an own. You tried to resurrect your marriage? You're a piece of shit. Okie dokie. McBuster says, I told you what our guy reported. Mapomania is going to be even more cringe than expected. They really don't have anything. I mean, and then Melton yesterday is like, we don't have anything, huh? And I looked at it, I go, nope, you still don't have anything. It's kind of like, bro, how are you still this bad at this? I would forgive people if they thought that Melton and I were working together to make me look better. I got to tell you. What is it? Yeah, Veldrain says it's Ricada's Precious. It is, like, look, I have a good sense of humor about it, but like a normal person would see that as remarkably creepy. Really creepy. I wish. You want to see the bills, homeboy? Willy-nilly's angry, too. Oh, then you know how much I pay for everything else. You understand that when you pay child support, there's a bunch of shit you can pay for that brings that number down, but you're still like, let's say if you pay $1,000 for insurance, they'll knock that off of your monthly, but you're still paying $1,000 for insurance. You know what else it means? I get to own you anytime you want because you became an obsessive stalker guy obsessed with my dick, love life, children, family, and pocketbook. I would have to say that that's a win for the toe, my friend. Wally World says, question, new toe boy here. Where did you play minor league ball? Oh, I bounced around. I was a Toledo mud hen for a while. Red Scoper says, why does everything have to be a win or L for the toe? Okay, don't ruin the bit. Because when I say that, people get driven nuts by it. I can't help it. And it's kind of like I grew up with older cousins, and they would bust our balls. And if we got upset about it, they would just taunt us and tease us more. And that was fun for them. And that's how it is for me. When I say something and people who are obsessed with me go, no, I get to go, oh, so that works. Well, then in that case, poke, 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 poke. And then they get to keep getting mad and I have fun. And then I go golfing. Oh, no, willy-nilly did not try to do this. Oh, this is going to be a bad look. He goes, how much does Nick pay in child support? Oh, wait, he has his kids 100%. Hey, and my kids don't do coke 100% of the time. I have my kids 50% of the time. I give them, I run their baths, I change their clothes, and I don't give them cocaine. But, you know, look at me bragging to you willy-nilly. Bapa Shab says, I haven't been keeping up with the Nick clips, but I have seen him nodding off and going full Kermit. He's having a tough time. Like, look, you can't quit cocaine and booze cold turkey, so you got Adderall and Galaxy Gas. They're calling him Nitrous Nick. Yeah, he's staying up all hours of the night. He's not sleeping. He's definitely in the middle of a crash and burn. That's for sure. Wally World with a good point for you, willy-nilly. Didn't Nick have his kids 0% of the time for several months? Yeah. I mean, I had more unsupervised time with my children last year than Nick did. CJ says, why not entirely stop talking about it, take the W, and move on to something new? Well, here's my thing. You notice that when other people bring it up, I always have a couple of jokes for it, a few pokes, and I want to give something to the Clippers. I don't know. I understand what you're saying, CJ. My rule is this. If other people bring it up, if the paying customers want me to talk about it, I'll talk about it. I don't bring it up. But I'm always happy to have a little joke handy, or I'm happy to trash them for a little bit. You know, I've always been that way. Ryan the Garbage Man says, what was April's reaction when you found the Coke bullet next to your kid? She immediately tried to defend everybody. It was pathetic, but they were all coked out. It was trying to protect the Coke problem. Because the first thing when I found that thing is I go, everybody get the out of my house, and this drug shit is done. And immediately she went into the shower to cry and say that I was being mean because I was kicking everyone out and said the drugs are done. In fact, out of everyone, there was one person that agreed with me and actually worked to console the children and whatnot. Only one. Everybody else, defend the Coke problem. That's the thing, man. When you hang around with junkies, you're never going to be able to make a good point. You're never going to be able to convince them. Everything is about protecting that next hit, protecting the drug, protecting the addiction. So that's kind of when it was very clear that she wasn't going to bounce back from that willingly. That's for sure. My Lost Interest says, so April was a junkie and dumb. Oh, yeah, she made the bullet thing all about herself. She made it all about herself. It turned into a big fight because I was being mean. It was unbelievable. And it's, you know, enough time has passed now. I don't even forgive her. It's not even a needing to forgive thing. It's like, that's what addicts do. I don't blame her. I, wish her the best and all that stuff. But it's like, you learn a lot being around those types of people, for sure. No, Mike Big Hunt, this is a common misnomer. Ashley never really knew anything until I told her. So it wasn't about that. Beloved Chatter says, letting Nick go to Vegas is like letting a fox into a hen house and waiting for the feathers to fly. The county is smart. Yeah, I think that's essentially what they're doing. And you know that those retards out there are going to try to snake him. Big time. Chad Buzamok says, I'm confused, though. You knew Ape was on cocaine, so you knew it must have been in the house and that she was on it with the kids. No, I didn't, because the first time Nick came over, he poured a bump out on my kitchen counter and did it. And I told him right then and there, I go, you cannot bring that shit in here. I have 3 kids. I share them with my ex-wife. If there's a speck of that shit in this house, I lose my kids. Absolutely not. And he promised me, in fairness to him, he did promise. He said, I will not bring it into the house. And then they just got so up and so bad with the coke, and they needed it everywhere, that he brought his Precious. He brought his safe with him and set it up in my bathroom. The minute I found out, I threw his ass out of there. I said, go bring that shit in your car. And he did. And he grabbed it and he packed it up and put it in his car. But then about 10 minutes later, I found the bullet that fell out of his pocket. And then it was, everybody get the out of here. I mean, it was, and I didn't realize it then, but it was just because I didn't realize that as you get longer and longer into the addiction, you become more and more unreachable and sloppy. I didn't know that. I just, I didn't know any. I'd never been exposed to it before. So I thought it was just, they're always just junky, sloppy. But apparently it gets worse over time. Chad Buzamok says, you didn't realize as she was nodding off on shows. I didn't know that he had given her a bullet to keep in her purse until long after. They also had trays of cocaine that they would keep in their pocket and their purses, like Nick would keep it. He had this tray of coke, and he could just take it out in the car, and he would rip lines off of it. It was, look, man, it's drug addiction. It's ugly. It's nasty. I saw things that, where you would go, people don't behave this way. He would rip lines right there in the car. When you're addicted to alcohol and cocaine, it's not like driving under the influence is a problem for you. It's not like you're like, well, I know I'm ripping lines everywhere all over the house, but, I won't do it while I'm driving. Yeah, they don't draw that line, Spunker says, you didn't realize April was doing bumps in your house when you were streaming together in your house. No, because she would take those breaks. And there was only one show where I think she was doing it during the show. And this was so late that I was gone like 2 weeks later. Guy had left the whole situation. But there was that show where she left 7 or 8 times, and even the chat was going, dude, she's on coke. Dude, she's on coke. Dude, she's on. Like the whole chat was saying she's on drugs. She keeps coming back and she's zooted out of her mind. After that show, I did talk to her about it. And that's after that show, that was what kind of set kind of the end in motion. When I confronted her about that, because every time I confronted her about it, I was a monster. It got turned around on me because, again, when you get between them and that coke, they have their mission is to destroy you to get to that coke. That's how strong the addiction is. Twisted question mark says, I try to give Nick the benefit of the doubt, but there's no way he's not still seeing April. I feel very comfortable, sue me if it's not true, that he's paying for that house and that he's still seeing her. Absolutely. 100. I think they're in Las Vegas together right now. I believe that when Nick's plane lands, he will be landing with April, and they are together in Las Vegas. That you can put that, again, you can put that down. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I 1,000% believe that. He's not going to stop until somebody makes him stop. He's not a guy who can stop making bad decisions on his own. Chad Buzamok says, was that when you yelled at M, this drug shit stops now? Yep. I have friends and family members that make fun of me for that. They go, remember when you went, this drug shit stops now? And you looked into the camera. I'm like, yep. They said, was she on drugs? I said, absolutely. She was on drugs while I was saying that. Yep. Nicole says, Nick's 100% paying for that house in Wakanda. I agree. What did Ashley say when you came clean? She was very happy that I was getting rid of April. She was very happy that I had removed the kids from that situation. She was very understanding, and our relationship has been ridiculously good ever since. It's been really the best thing that ever happened to us as parents. I apologize if that's not me trying to shit on April at all. I'm not trying to hurt her feelings. The best thing that ever happened to Ashley and I as parents is April was out of the picture. And it's one of the biggest reasons I'm riding a wave of happiness that I haven't known for years. The happiest I've been in years. Not that I've ever been an unhappy person other than like the last days at the old lodge. But I can't tell you how happy I am to have the co-parenting relationship that I have. Chad Buzamok says, I thought Ape left, not that you got rid of her. No, she said, we're going to move into that house. You have to buy that house and we'll rebuild everything from there and we'll build it back together. She texted me a long time ago about that. And it was at that point I said, no, I'm not. She made this power move where she's like, I'm going to move out of this house and move into that house and you're going to follow me and we're going to buy it. And that's where we're going to do the show from. And we're going to build a studio and blah, 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 blah. She had this big thing that we were going to do. And I just balked and I said, no, I can't do it. I'm not. The kids didn't want to be there. My oldest told me, she goes, Dad, I don't like going there. It's no fun. You're the only one who comes out and hangs out with us. She goes, I don't like going there. And I said, well, then we're not going to go there anymore. When your kid tells you I don't like going somewhere, you don't bring your kid there. So yeah, she had this great, she thought she had this great Machiavellian strategy where she was going to go, we're doing this now. We're doing this. And I went, no, we're not. And I said, I'm cool with going this way. Why don't you go that way? It's fine with me. And you know who was most mad about it? Nick. He was so heartbroken. He was like, you piece of shit, you lied to me. I was like, dude, this is what the girl's supposed to do. Oh, my God. My Lost Interest says, your parents were right about April. Did April get along with your parents? She got along with them fine until they tried to tell her stuff, until they tried to tell me stuff, until they tried to, push back a little bit. Then I remember when we were camping and I told my dad about the engagement. I said, aren't you going to say congratulations? And he goes, why would I congratulate you for making a huge mistake? You do everything wrong. And April was standing right there. And we went in our camper and the kids were with us and everything else. And, we were pissed about it and all that stuff. And I was like, I'm not talking to that asshole until he apologizes. I was all hot. I was all worked up. April, and this was evil now that I look back on it. She goes, oh, but you're not going to leave? Why don't you have some balls and leave? And I told her, because the kids are here and they're with their grandparents and their cousins and they're playing and having fun. My dad would leave. And I'm like, wow, what a shitty, it was just there was a lot of that shit that, again, that I had a blind spot for and I didn't see. Mr. Fuzzy Bottom Jean says, you abandoned the woman. You didn't walk away. You didn't even tell her parents. Yeah, I did. I told her parents. I called them and I said, look, she's not, I filed for divorce. I'm washing my hands of it, but you got to get her help. And her dad told me, her dad said, I knew at Easter she was on something. And he said, I know my daughter and I know that she has an addictive personality. And he goes, the day before they got arrested, he said, we should have lunch. We should sit down and talk. Cause I think he wanted kind of some guidance on what the hell was going on. But, then it was too late. It was too late at that point.